Hey everyone, welcome back. So this is an intro video to the labor and delivery series, and I wanted to do an intro video for several reasons. One is, um, well, I haven't actually had a child on my own. My wife used to be a midwife, and for the first several years that we were dating, we would work side by side. And oftentimes I took care of and addressed the nutrition and homeopathic and herbal side of pregnancy, labor, delivery, infertility. And so I have a lot of experience with that. And I want to share a little bit about that, particularly with regard to diet, fertility, natural conception, these sort of things, um, to kind of lay a foundation before diving into the homeopathic side of things. Tomorrow, I will be releasing the first video of this series to subscribers. And that video is going to talk about what to do from a homeopathic standpoint when labor starts. Here's the contractions. Maybe you have a few, maybe it goes on for a few hours, and then suddenly they stop and labor is delayed. And this is like protocol for if you're having your baby in the hospital anyway, protocol for drugs to start to be pumped into you and of course your baby. And so to try and avoid that and prevent this from happening, um, there are some good homeopathic remedies. There's one I'm going to be particularly addressing and talking about tomorrow, um, to help if you experience this, or if you're at a birth, and this happens, you're like, oh my gosh, let's try this first. And I can't tell you how many times that approach has been successful with the women I've worked with who've had labor starts and then stops. So I'll be excited to talk about that tomorrow. Now, today, I just want to talk a little bit about my experience from a nutritional standpoint, but also from a conception standpoint, um, with regard to pregnancy, labor, delivery. So the first thing I wanted to mention is that I know it's becoming more and more available, to if you're having trouble conceiving, to go to seek out artificial measures. And when this particularly involves, let's say, the woman is infertile, when it kind of is on the female, um, the intervention to set the body up to try to procreate is very invasive. It's very hard on the hormones, and there are a lot of long-term consequences to the mental emotional health, to the hormone health, to physical health, that I am concerned about and that I've seen, and that I think it's important to talk about. It can be a very sticky subject to talk about because it's like, oh, I really want a baby and so forth. But of course, everybody has their own right to their own medical decisions. It's your body. You can do whatever you'd like. In my experience, when um, when the female has to undergo artificial treatments, hormone therapies, etc., in order to even try to conceive, well, we're not getting to the root of the problem, which is we need to ask, why can't this person conceive? What's the root of the problem? Yes, it's usually a hormone imbalance, but also there are a lot of emotional components as well. There are toxicity components. There's gut microbiome components. There's so many components to look at and to consider and to address, that when that those issues and areas are addressed, the woman can then conceive. In many cases. Now, sometimes it's just the body isn't capable of doing so. But when we get to the root of the issue using nutrition therapy and sunlight therapy and homeopathy, then so many times I've helped so many women using that approach be able to conceive naturally. And of course, this isn't going to be like, oh, you can just go, to the clinic and start your artificial treatments, pretty immediately. Well, when you take the more natural approach, I recommend a minimum of 1 year of undergoing that natural approach before trying to conceive again. Because if your body isn't in a place where it's naturally conceiving, then something's compromised in the body, something's out of balance, right? And so when we just choose to like, oh, I'm going to go the artificial route, we're kind of bypassing the root of the issue, and that issue will absolutely be passed on to the fetus, to the next generation. And if you are able to conceive in an artificial way, then I'm going to guess, and I know it's really early in the game, but the ability of um, um, I really truly suspect that um, people who were born are in an artificial via artificial hormones, mostly when the woman has to undergo this, because it's so invasive to her body, to her hormones, to her metabolic health, and so the children, as they grow into adulthood, I suspect are going to have similar issues and probably more intense issues conceiving. So I know that's kind of how do I say it, controversial subject, but I wanted to just throw that out there because I feel like all sides of the coin, the top, the bottom, the sides, the front, the back need to be looked at when we're talking about health and healing and especially conception. So that's first and foremost. And I have helped many women be able to be in the position to conceive naturally after a minimum of 1 year of working together. So that is possible. There is hope. It's just the slower route. And we are trained to get information right now and to start treatments right now and to have the baby right now. And it's just how our culture operates. So I know, oh my God, a whole year, but the long-term payoff will be worth it. No, okay, so let's put that aside. And now I want to just take a few minutes to talk about prepping the body to carry a life inside of it. And um, most people, well, let me just back up a little bit. Um, it's wise if you can take time to prep your body for holding this baby, carrying this baby, but not only that, when you take the time to take care of your body, to heal your body in a natural way, you're making it more robust. You're clearing out old things, you're detoxing. And if you choose to use homeopathy and you get the right remedy and you're working with a great homeopath, homeopathy, one of the main reasons why I love this medicine is because of its ability to reverse genetic predisposition. Now, can it reverse every single genetic predisposition in a person? Not likely. Can it reverse some to several genetic predispositions in people who undergo homeopathic treatment for, years? Absolutely. And so when you undergo that process, you are setting your child up to be not only healthy during labor, delivery, your pregnancy, as a child, but through its entire life, for its entire life. I'm someone who really likes to look at the long game of things. It's not like what can we do really quick and fast. It's typically not my way, whether I'm cooking something or healing something or helping to support someone through their healing process. There's really something to be said for the low and slow method. Um, so give yourself time, a year minimum, 2, 3, 4. I mean, 5. I mean, if you can start this in your 20s, I mean, even before then. I mean, most people when they grow up, they aren't fed a healthy diet. The emotional, all of us have emotional wounds from our families and so forth, and so taking time to at least bring some attention and some healing to these areas, I highly recommend it for you and for your child and this ground you're going to be setting for future generations. Um, so there's several ways you can do that. Homeopathy is one, particularly with regard to strengthening your hormones, strengthening your body, strengthening your constitution, and starting to reverse the genetic predispositions that you were dealt, and that's in your lineage, and starting to reverse those before you conceive. I mean, that will go a very long way. Nutritionally, I think it's pretty I think there's a lot of information out there, and so I want to touch upon some of the areas that are maybe a little bit more unknown or controversial or less talked about. So of course we know grass-fed meats, wild caught fish, like there's no reason to avoid seafood unless it's like something farm raised and something like genetically modified like tilapia or farm raised salmon. Of course, like avoid these things. But if you have access to wild caught seafood, like the world is your oyster. Like literally, don't be afraid of these things. The amount of mercury that you get exposed to in literally one inoculation is like the statistic, I don't remember it like 100%, but it's like 30% more plus more in a vaccine. That's actually probably low. I'll try to look that up and post it on this video for you all. But it's like the amount just in one inoculation compared to if you eat like everyone's like, oh, avoid the big fish like tuna. They have some of the best omega 3s in them. And so I'm a big fan of it, and I think women should eat as much seafood as their heart desires before pregnancy, during pregnancy, after pregnancy. If you really want to prevent heavy metal toxicity in yourself and in your child, then probably don't get them vaccinated. That's like the wisest thing we can do for our children. A lot of controversial subjects here on this intro video. So thanks for sticking with me if you're still around to to get this. So that's one thing. Okay, we know like a lot of healthy saturated fats, grass-fed butter, tallows if you like them, caviar, seafood, wild caught, all of these things, basically the body cannot get enough of. Um, if you're getting ready to conceive and if you're pregnant, I mean, have at it. Grass-fed meats, butter, raw milk, all of these things, cream, cheese, your veggies, of course, fermented veggies, all of it, yes, right? Um, let's talk about maybe some of the more controversial or lesser discussed areas. And one of those is around prenatals. I'm really not a fan of prenatals. Um, if you're super deficient going into pregnancy to start with, that needs to be addressed before being pregnant versus trying to rectify a deficiency after you've already, now you're pregnant. Of course, that's not always possible, but I highly recommend strengthening your body with real food and sunlight and exercise, like a really good walking program. Walking's our best form of exercise before you conceive. Even if you, oh my gosh, you're pregnant. Ooh, I might not have done all the things I really should have. Of course, like we always go into things unprepared. We're humans, right? It's like that's just how it is. So now what? Well, I there's very few, very rare cases I would still recommend a prenatal supplement. I don't care if it's from a store or a naturopath or it's made out of beet juice and real foods and whole foods. Your very best bet from a bioavailability standpoint, meaning how your body, your gut is going to absorb these foods, is literally by eating real food. Okay. And so there is no substitute for real food. There's no substitute for real sunshine. There's no substitute for healthy water, right? So clean water, I should say. So, now, why am I not a huge fan of prenatals? Most of them are synthetic, okay, which not only is you're not going to be able to absorb it, but actually there could be some detrimental side effects to this. I'm sure many of you who are watching this have heard about the folic acid controversy. And yeah, we shouldn't be taking folic acid. We shouldn't be taking that. It shouldn't be in a pill. And that has a lot of negative side effects. And you can look at many papers on this. You can start with the Weston A. Price Foundation, Dangers of Folic Acid Supplementation. And it's an unnatural way that they synthetically make this type of B vitamin, and it can have actually negative impacts on you, on the fetus, and they really push the agenda of you're going to prevent neural tube defects by taking folic acid, which is highly inaccurate. And the very best way to prevent that is eat your green leafy vegetables, eat your fats, eat your organ meats, eat your liver pates, eat all of these. Eat your meats medium rare to rare, and you will more than cover these bases. Okay, so prenatals are ineffective. They're hard to absorb, even if they're from whole foods. Do you see that pill? How the F did those foods get into that pill? What did they have to do to get it down to that? They had to wash it, heat it, dehydrate it, put it into a powder. For Christ's sake, just eat the real food, and um, your bases will more than be covered from a nutritional standpoint and nutrient standpoint by approaching it in this way. The doctors, maybe even the midwives, will be pushing prenatals. So that's my 2 cents. Please feel free to do your research, but I don't recommend them. I recommend going all in with your diet. This is a good time if you or your partner don't know how to cook to take some classes or do some research on how to cook. And this is like also another curveball, and it's probably just because I love cooking so much that this is a skill that is rarely passed on to our children, or it's becoming less and less of a something that our kids inherit because of all of our convenience foods. We have things in boxes and packages and heat it up and Postmate and order out and these sort of things. And so one of the biggest gifts you can give yourself and your children is learning how to cook and teaching them how to cook and encouraging that. And as you grow up, or as you watch them grow up. I know many people, including my wife, who food was like, it's a chore, this is a nuisance, what a pain in the ass, quick, let's hurry through it. And that absolutely gets passed on just through observation. Even when your child's, born and it's like rolling on the floor, sitting in the high chair, and you're trying to do something in the kitchen, and it's like if that type of stress and energy is around this place where you nourish yourself, that's going to be passed on to your child as well. And so that's another thing that I really recommend is learning how to cook, learning how to nourish yourself, to have a healthy baby, to have a healthy pregnancy, but also to pass this invaluable life skill onto your children. Now, they don't have to grow up to be like a Michelin star chef, but knowing how to, make some things in the kitchen and have it be an enjoyable and nourishing process, man, that's a lost art that actually will be one of the healthiest, most beneficial things you can provide to your children. And knowing this from growing up in a very food focused family and watching my mom in the kitchen and my relatives and my aunts and uncles and grandparents, and it was a very much this immersion process and observation, and that just sticks with you. Um, so I cannot recommend that enough. You don't have to fucking be a five-star chef. You don't have to make all these elaborate things. Of course, if you love that, go for it. But literally, how do you cook a steak? How do I make a chicken soup? How do I make yogurt? These very basic, simple things that are super nourishing and that are going to be far more nourishing when you make them versus if you try to find them at a grocery store, even an organic grocery store, you know. And not only that, but the energy that this brings into the house and into the child and the connection and the community and the nourishment, it's just goes it goes a long way. Meaning it's not just going to be going to you, it's going to be going to your child and their children. And it's just this legacy of nourishment that is so devoid in our culture that will make a huge impact. So, of course, I'm passionate about that because I was somebody who was very nourished growing up, and have observed so many people, including my wife, who just didn't receive that. And observing the difference in that is a night and day, and can really impact not only somebody's health, but their man, when you can approach food and eating in this pleasurable, communal, even if it's just you and your partner, they can be a lot of fun and connection. And in our culture, it's like we're pretty rigid in our culture. And if we can eat more like other cultures, and it doesn't even have to be their food, but just they take their time. Maybe there's a couple courses. Maybe people know how to make some simple things that have been passed down, and there's connection and there's discussion at the table. It's like, where's that in our culture? It's really lacking. All right, that's enough I'm going to say about that. If you need some recipes, go to my Eat Heal Farm Substack and or send me a message there or here and say, hey, oh my God, will you post how to make this thing? And yes, I will, sure. So I think that's trying to think. That's mostly what I want to say here, just to prep as we go into the homeopathy for labor and delivery series. This is a little intro video of what homeopathy can do, why I use it, why I recommend it. Not only just like you're in the middle of labor and you're like have panic and fear of death, what do I do? Yes, there are remedies to call on for that, which I will talk about in this series, but also many women do well on a homeopathic remedy or two while they're pregnant. And some symptoms can come up, which I'll talk about. Morning sickness. What do you do in these cases? Is this something you just have to strong arm through? Often, if we get the right remedy to for these situations, this can pass pretty quickly within a few days to a week. And then all these delicious foods I'm talking about here, it's like, okay, now I can eat the butter. Now I can eat the steak. Now I can eat the fish. Now I can eat all these things because I finally have an appetite again, right? So, or let's just say we need to the digestion needs support, or the constitution needs support on some level, emotionally, physically. We can use homeopathy um, before and during pregnancy to help support this, and of course to help um, gradually erase the genetic predispositions that we all have inherited. So we pass fewer of those on to our children. The more years of homeopathy you have under your belt for you and your partner before conceiving, um, that's the more helpful. Um, of course, diet. And if you have questions about that, let me know. Please look into folic acid. There's a lot of good stuff out there. Um, Start with people who are reputable in this area and are um, in this topic, and not somebody who's like pushing, supplementation. The Weston A. Price Foundation, I know, has some good articles. I know other people will as well. That is well worth looking into. Um, the very best thing you can do is diet, your sunlight therapy, and then getting homeopathic support, and of course, working on your emotional well-being. I mean, this is going a little bit maybe deep, or maybe you weren't expecting this, but how is your relationship with your mom? And if there's some stuff that needs to be addressed or healed there, um, that could be really helpful to start to do so before diving into motherhood. Or how is your relationship with your dad, or these sort of things. If you have any questions about this, let me know. Happy to deep dive into any of these areas if need be. But keep a lookout for tomorrow, where I'll post the video um, regarding what do you do when labor starts. Contractions, 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 and then dead stop. Okay? I'll see you then.